Be happy with what you have. In the small village of Kumbira, nestled between rolling hills and lush green fields, lived a man named Arjun. He was a skilled carpenter, one of the best the village had ever known. People from neighboring towns would travel just to commission his work. Yet, Arjun was not happy. No matter how beautifully he carved the wood, how satisfied his customers were, or how much money he made, Arjun always felt that something was missing. He would often stare into the distance, as if looking for something beyond the mountains. "I'm wasting my life here," he'd mutter. "If only I had more money, more recognition, a bigger life." His small cottage, filled with warmth and simplicity, felt to him like a prison. The laughter of his children, the love of his wife, and the appreciation of his village seemed like background noise to his constant craving for more. One morning, Arjun packed his bags. "I'm going to the city," he told his wife Priya. "I need to find success, real success." Priya's eyes welled with tears, but she didn't stop him. She knew that no one could convince Arjun of the value of what he already had, not until he learned it himself. Arjun arrived in the bustling city of Nandipur. The roads were wide, the buildings tall, and the people busy. Everything moved faster, louder, and with more urgency. He found work with a large furniture manufacturer. At first, the job was exciting. The machines were advanced, and the company paid well. But Arjun's creative soul was quickly suffocated by repetitive tasks. He missed working with his hands, carving each piece with care. Here, everything was about quantity, not quality. But Arjun pushed through. "This is just the beginning," he told himself. "Once I save enough money, I'll start my own business." Months turned into years. He bought a small apartment, upgraded his clothes, and even purchased a second-hand car. From the outside, he looked like a successful man. But inside, the void grew deeper. Each time he reached a goal, it lost its shine. He would look around at his city friends, who owned more, earned more, and had bigger houses. "I'm still behind," he'd think. No matter what he achieved, someone always had more. One evening, exhausted from another long day, Arjun boarded the night train back home for a rare visit. The train was nearly empty, except for an old man who sat across from him. The old man smiled kindly. "Heading home?" he asked. Arjun nodded. "Just for a few days." The two began talking. Arjun shared his journey, how he left his village to find success, and how, despite having more than he ever did before, he still felt unfulfilled. The old man listened quietly and then said something simple. "A thirsty man who drinks salt water will only grow thirstier." Arjun looked confused. You think you're chasing success, but what you're really chasing is contentment. And that can't be found in more money or bigger things. Sometimes it's already in your hands, but you're too busy looking elsewhere to see it. Arjun didn't reply, but the words stayed with him. When he got off the train, he turned back to thank the man, but the compartment was empty. Stepping back into his village felt surreal. The air was clean, the birds chirped, and the hills still stood proud. Nothing had changed, and yet everything felt different. His children, now taller, ran to him with joy. Priya's eyes sparkled with tears. His neighbors greeted him like a hero returning from war. That night, they sat under the stars. Arjun watched his children play and laughed for the first time in months, a laugh that came from peace, not pride. The next morning, he took a walk around the village. He visited the old workshop he had left behind. Dust covered his tools, but they still felt familiar in his hands. He ran his fingers over the wood, and for the first time in years, he felt alive. Maybe, he thought, this is what I was looking for all along. That evening, Arjun sat with Priya. I've made a mistake, he confessed. I chased dreams that weren't mine. I had everything I needed here, but I couldn't see it. Priya smiled gently. Sometimes we need to lose ourselves to find our way back. I want to stay, he said, but we'll have less money. We never needed much, she replied. Arjun decided to rebuild his workshop. He began crafting again, not for money, but for love. People heard he had returned and orders began pouring in. But this time, Arjun chose his projects. He took joy in every detail, and his happiness was no longer tied to numbers. He taught his children to carve and even started free classes for village youth. His work was still admired, but now it was his life that inspired people. One day, a young man named Ravi came to Arjun's shop. I heard you're the best, he said. I want to learn. Arjun welcomed him warmly. Over time, Ravi began to open up. He was from another village and had run away from home, thinking he'd make it big in the city. I want more, Ravi said. I don't want to be stuck like my parents. Arjun smiled. I thought the same once. He told Ravi his story, not as a warning, but as a lesson. You can go to the city, learn, grow, dream big. But don't ever forget to ask yourself, why? What are you really chasing? Because if you're not careful, you'll spend your whole life climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall. Ravi was quiet for a long time. Do you regret going? He asked. No, said Arjun, because it taught me the value of what I left behind. But I wish I had understood sooner that happiness isn't about having more, it's about wanting less. Years passed. Arjun grew older, but he never lost the spark in his eyes. His village prospered. The youth he mentored opened their own shops. The children he taught carried his values forward, and his story became something of a legend. One day, a journalist visited the village to write about its thriving artisan community. She interviewed Arjun and asked, "What's the secret to your success?" He laughed. "Success? I don't know if I have that, but I do have peace." And that came the moment I stopped chasing more and started cherishing what I already had. The journalist smiled. That's rare these days. Arjun nodded. But it doesn't have to be. Everyone's looking outside for happiness. But sometimes, the greatest riches lie in the life you already live. When Arjun passed away years later, the whole village mourned. Not just because they had lost a great craftsman, but because they had lost someone who truly lived. On his workshop wall, a simple plaque hung. It read, "Be happy with what you have, because one day you'll realize it was everything you ever needed." And with that legacy, Arjun continued to speak, even in silence. Moral of the story: too often, we chase after more money, more status, more things believing they'll bring us happiness. But true joy often comes not from what we gain, but from recognizing and cherishing what we already have. Gratitude turns what we have into enough.